Hi, I'm Troy from Studio 33 Guitar. Thanks for watching. So today we're talking about the 4 main chords that you need to play literally hundreds of songs. These 4 chords are used in probably about 90% of popular music, whether that be country or rock or pop. If it's on the radio, you can pretty much guarantee it uses these 4 chords. So if all these songs use these 4 chords, how come they don't all sound the same? Well, you can change the order that you play the chords in, and also the way that you're strumming the chords and the rhythm that you use. You can also change the key of the song by simply using a capo on the guitar, and we'll talk about how you can do that later. If you've been playing guitar for a bit, you may have already learned these chords, but I'm going to show you some tips and some tricks to make the chords a little bit easier to play and also make it easier for you to transition from one chord to another. And to help you out, I've compiled a list of over 200 songs that use these 4 chords. You can find that on my website, studio33guitar.com. So let's zoom in on the neck and have a look at how to play these chords. The first chord we're going to look at is a G major chord. Now there's a few different ways to play a G major, but the way that I'm going to show you is how I recommend to play it, especially if you're a beginner, because this will really help you with transitioning from one chord to another. So the chord looks like this. The fingering for that is your middle finger on the 3rd fret on your lowest string, and your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret. You're going to skip over the next 2 strings, and then your ring finger is going to go on the 3rd fret, this B string, and then your pinky finger is going to go directly below it on the E string. Now you may have seen G major before, played a little bit differently, maybe like this, or like this, having either the ring finger or pinky finger down on that note. The way that I'm showing you how to play it is playing with both of those fingers down, and that still makes a G major chord. And the reason that we're going to leave those 2 fingers down, because we're going to be able to use those same notes in 3 of these 4 chords. And so it's really helpful with transitioning because you don't have to move these fingers. And that's a key part of changing chords smoothly. Now the next chord we're going to do is a C major chord, but we're going to play a C add 9. So you may have seen a C major chord before that looks like this. And that's a tricky chord to play, especially as a beginner. It's not easy to get your fingers in that position. So the C add 9 chord is still a C major chord, but it looks identical to this G chord, except these 2 fingers are going to be 1 string down. So this pinky and ring finger are still in the same spot they were for the G chord. We're just going to move these 2 fingers down, and that becomes a C chord. Now one trick to do when you're playing this C chord is to use your middle finger just to nudge up slightly on this low E string, because you don't want that E string ringing when you play this chord. So if you bump up with your middle finger and nudge up against that string just to keep it from ringing, that way you can still play all 6 strings on a strum, but you're not going to hear that low E string ringing. The next chord we're going to look at is an E minor chord. Now again, there's a few different ways to play an E minor chord. You may have seen it like this. And that is correct, and that is actually going to be the basis for what we're going to learn right now. But we're going to play an E minor 7 chord. So we're going to add another note to make it an E minor 7. But just because it's called an E minor 7 doesn't mean that you can't use it as a regular E minor chord. Most of the time you can substitute this version. If you see a chord chart that says E minor and you play this E minor 7, it's probably going to sound fine. So we're going to start the chord just like I just showed. Your index finger is going to be on the 2nd fret of your A string, and the middle finger is going to be directly below that. That's going to give you E minor. But now we're going to put those 2 fingers, the ring finger and the pinky, back where they were for that G chord and the C chord. So now the E minor 7 looks like this. So again, these 2 fingers are the same for all 3 of those chords. G, C add 9, and E minor 7. So that makes it really handy to be able to switch from one chord to another without having to move these two fingers, because then you can just concentrate on these two. Now when you're moving these two fingers, try and make as little movement as possible. So when you switch from that G chord to that C chord, try not to take your fingers off and put them back on. Try and just move them straight down from one set of strings to the other. And imagine that your two fingers are taped together so that they're locked into that position. So don't move one finger at a time and then the other one. Try and move them both together. And that'll make your chord change a lot smoother. And the same thing applies for this E minor chord. You'll notice that for the G chord and the E minor, the only difference is the middle finger. This index finger stays the same for both. So again, that makes it easy for making that transition. And the last chord that we're going to look at is a D major chord. You may have seen this before. It looks like this. And that's also the same way that we're going to learn here. Now this note, again, is the same as all three of the other chords. So the only thing that changes here now is the pinky's going to come off. So that ring finger is going to stay right where it is. The index finger is going to be one string above that and one fret back. And then your middle finger is going to go down on the first string on the second fret. And for this chord, we're going to play from the D string down. So we're going to try and skip over the E string and the A string. You don't really want those ringing during this chord. So from D down, it gives you that D chord. So that sounds like that. Now an interesting bonus chord is the D sus4, which is back with that pinky back in that same spot. That's going to sound like this. And if we lift that off, it resolves down to that D major. The D sus and D major. So often in a chord progression, you may have a D sus and a D chord both in there. So for example, it might sound something like this. So all I'm doing there is going from that G chord down to the D chord. And again, the only movement that I'm making there is this index finger is moving down 2 frets. And that's going to give me that D sus chord. And then while that's ringing, I'm plugging in my middle finger on that fret. And then once I've got it there, then I can lift that pinky off to get that D chord. So again, those 4 chords are all you need to play hundreds of songs. And again, you can go to the website, studio33guitar.com, and check out the list. I've got over 200 songs listed there that you could play with these chords. And if you have a capo, then you can use this on the guitar to change the key that you're playing in. So far, these chords that we just played are in the key of G. But you can put your capo on your guitar and change the key of these chords and still play those same shapes. So for example, if you have your capo and you put it on the 2nd fret, and then you move your chord shapes that we just learned up 2 frets as well, it becomes the key of A. So for example, that chord that was a G chord is now an A chord. This D chord is now an E chord. This E minor is now an F sharp minor, and this C is now a D. Everything is just moved up to the next key. And if we move that capo up again, we can do the same thing. We can play in the key of B. We can keep going. So the capo can be a really valuable tool if you want to try this in different keys. And again, if you go to the website, I'll have a chart on there that'll show you where you can place the capo and what key those chords will become. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, then please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. You can also visit our website, again, studio33guitar.com. You can check out some more free lessons there, or even check out some of our full courses that are available. We'll see you next time.